We have our level with our dummy game objects and a dummy score button. If we give ourselves some score, complete the level with our anxiety rating, and then go back to the level we just completed, we'll see the high score we just achieved as that's been written to our save game file. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of my dev diary developing a VR exposure therapy game in Unity, and it's an exciting day. We've worked out what our main requirements are, we've prototyped our VR user interface, and we've drawn up a design for our underlying architecture, which means we are now finally ready to start our Unity project and get programming. So at long last, we're creating a new Unity project from the 3D template, project name, VR exposure therapy game. No, that's lame. I want a name that conveys the function of the game to treat phobias, but also hints at the overall style and tone. Now, while we haven't got to come up with our name just yet, most devs do this much closer to release, it is still good to think about, because I can honestly say that tone and style isn't really something that I've given much thought to yet. Obviously, another consideration is to make sure that our name isn't already taken, which requires a bit of research. On my travels through the internet, I discovered this. It's a video advertising a cognitive behavioural therapy program from the National Institute of Health and Care back in 2008, and while it's certainly not a game, it has given me some interesting thoughts on what I want the tone of my game to be. Spoiler alert, it's basically the exact opposite of at least the first 5 minutes of this video. So, presumably the NICE has hired a bunch of actors to talk about their experiences with various anxiety disorders in this amazingly produced video.
Let's now take a look at our stories.
Yeah. Each person gives an account of how their anxiety affects their life.
I feel tired and exhausted all the time. I can never relax. I feel so guilty. I haven't been to work for 2 years.
The cases portrayed in this video are admittedly unusually severe. If you're struggling this badly, you should probably get more professional help than what you're going to find from a 21-year-old intermediate programmer such as myself. Now, I get that this video is trying to say, we understand how intensely these conditions suck, you're not alone and we're here for you if you want support, but tonally, at least in the first 5 minutes, this video just seems to say, you know that awful condition you're suffering from? Isn't it just crushingly debilitating? Doesn't it just make you feel completely powerless? Doesn't it just rule you to the point that there's basically no hope? Look, the research I've done in this area by no means makes me an expert, but my understanding is that whether you're getting your treatment through a therapist or through some kind of assistive system, you are the one that has to put in the work. You are the one that has to make the effort, and to do that, you need to be empowered and motivated. Nothing about the tone of this video is empowering or motivational. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. How did I find this video in the first place? Under a search for the name Fear Fighter. I searched for this because I do quite like this name. It seems to convey the exact opposite tone of this video. You can fight this and we're going to help you do it. This is exactly the sentiment I want my game to convey. I want to show the player that they're not powerless against their phobia, they can fight it, and I want the tone and style of the game to encourage them to do so. The challenge here is going to be finding a way to make the style empowering and encouraging, while also keeping the environment somewhat relaxing to aid in the therapeutic process. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do this yet, but I'll be keeping it in the back of my mind as I build the foundations. So, the name that I'm going with for now is Phobia Fighter VR. I can't spell! The name that I'm going with for now is Phobia Fighter VR. It says it already exists because I made the project days ago, and I'm only just now recording this segment. Shh, don't break the illusion. This name conveys the sentiment I want while being a little bit more specific to phobias. You see this name and you know you're going to get a VR game to help you fight your phobias. Yes, it's nighttime now. These things take time, don't worry about it. I may very well change this name later depending on what the style of the game ends up looking like, but we're 45 minutes into this Dev Diary series now and we still haven't created our Unity project, so I think it's now just time to start. So, learning from the mistakes in episode 2, immediately after creating my Unity project, I'm initializing a Git repo so that everything's being tracked in version control, and I'm adding our autosave script so that I don't go losing my scene data, and by extension, my mind. I don't really know what the environment is going to look like yet, so I'm just starting with a big blank scene, kind of like that big expanse you see in the Oculus Rift while you're loading up a game. It also just seemed to make more sense to get the interface and interaction with each level finished, and then build the environment to fit around that, rather than vice versa. The focus of my time this week has been setting up the user interface, setting up some dummy levels, and writing all the code behind the system foundations, fitting all these scripts together according to the architecture diagram we talked about last episode. I did end up making a few tweaks and corrections as I went along, but nothing too major. The main thing was that in the original design here, we had the Phobia Scene Manager holding references to the game objects that contained the level managers, and triggering the functionality to activate and deactivate levels by toggling the level manager game objects on and off, triggering the on-disable and on-enable methods from mono-behavior on the level manager. When it came to writing the code, I didn't really like this, as it really limits Phobia Scene Manager's control over Level Manager, as it effectively can only trigger those two methods. The only way to reset the level is by deactivating the game object and immediately activating it again, which seemed kind of messy. In the revised version, I ended up just storing references to the level managers directly, and exposing activate, deactivate, and reset level methods. The game object the level manager is attached to has a child holder object, which is the parent of all the game objects used in that level. When Phobia Scene Manager calls activate level, the level manager activates its holder, which in turn activates all the children game objects. When the level activates for the first time, it will execute some code to remember exactly how that level is initially laid out, so that we can mess everything up within our scene, hit reset, and have all of our game objects return to their initial states. This means we haven't got to define the initial positions of all of our game objects in the code, as we can just do it in the editor, which is much, much easier. Man, these videos take so long. I need coffee. Pro tip, Sports Direct do these like massive mugs so you can have 2 coffees at once. And now making it even longer, fantastic. Alright, it's coffee fueled speed time now because I want to go to bed. Just a side note, this footage isn't sped up, I am actually writing the code this quickly. The final result of this week's work is this. We have our level with our dummy game objects and a dummy score button. If we give ourselves some score, complete the level with our anxiety rating, and then go back to the level we just completed, we'll see the high score we just achieved as that's been written to our save game file. We haven't got a level selection area yet, so there's nowhere for us to see all of our high scores and SUDS anxiety ratings, but I've written a little debug script that will print out all the information from our save game to the console, so we can be sure that the save game is working as intended. Okay, that's it for this week guys, but before you go, have yourselves a little look down in the description where I've linked the repo for all of my code, so you can have an in-depth look at exactly how all of that works. I've also linked the repo for my university dissertation, which is what this project is based off of. This includes my report, which has all the documentation around research into exposure therapy in VR, requirements analysis, design, and the data gathered from testing the system with users. Thanks a whole lot for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.